In cryo, you don't dream at all. Doesn't feel like 6 years. More like a fifth of tequila and an ass kicking.
Are we there yet? Yeah, we're there, sunshine. We're there.
Now, I'm no astrophysicist. In fact, I'm about as far as is possible to get from being a smarty, space-knowing person, so not really best suited to be making vast, declarative statements about interstellar space travel, but there's always been something about movies set in space, or feature space travel in general, that's always bugged me. Now, movies such as Star Wars get a buy, simply because they're set in a completely different universe. And the physics thereabouts is so nonsensical it can't really be taken seriously enough to get too worked up about. Just call it repulsor lift technology, and you can get away with stationary floating speeders and dogfights in zero gravity. But when it comes to well-known movies such as the Alien films, Event Horizon and the subject of this little video, Avatar, they have a few things in common. They're supposedly grounded in reality, they're set in a not fantastically distant future, and they hinge on the premise that travelling between planets will become as simple as pointing your galaxy-class space freighter towards a chosen star and pressing go on the big control panel with all the blinking lights. Technically, that kind of thing is sort of possible here and now, but only within the confines of our own solar system. It's 4 days travel to get to the moon, and about 8 months to get to Mars, give or take. Plus, it's not just pointing and going, there's a lot of confusing physics to deal with, as anyone who's played Kerbal Space Program will tell you. The moon's been done, and Mars is entirely possible. You just have to find enough astronauts who are willing to spend at least 2 years in space, and just hope the science is sound enough for them to get back home. Mind you, the horrifically complicated and mind-numbingly huge number of things that had to happen with absolute precision on the James Webb Telescope went off without a hitch, so confidence must be high. But like I said, travelling to our nearest neighbours is relatively easy. It's when you start to think about travelling past Pluto that things start to get complicated. Mainly because, kind of like flat earthers and young earth creationists, the people who write movies such as these deliberately ignore just how very big the universe actually is and how long it would take to get, well, anywhere. One of the most unifying facts about the entirety of the universe is numbers. The film Contact made a wonderful point about this when Jodie Foster first heard the alien signal that reached Earth in a sequence of audible bursts that came in sets of prime numbers.
See that? Make me a liar, fish.
In a split second, we learn that whoever sent the signal must be first smart enough to be able to transmit the signal in the first place, and second, benevolent enough to do so with the intention of communicating with any species who were evolved and advanced enough to understand what the principle of the message was. But numbers are also the biggest stumbling block to travelling between worlds as well. First is distance, and the second is the vast amount of empty space. Unlike the grandfather paradox I've wittered on about before, the Fermi paradox is very simple to explain. It proposes that the universe is so huge that there has to be other life out there somewhere, but it also theorises that there's absolutely no evidence that it does. This particular paradox was named as such because apparently some chap called Fermi mentioned this thought while in casual conversation with some like-minded chums, and simply due to the fact that he was a rather clever bloke, designing the world's first nuclear reactor and whatnot, that it was enough for it to become a thing. Funny thing about the way my brain works is I created my own version of this many years ago when I was in that mind-crushingly boring first job I had. I was 16 at the time and needed something to keep my brain occupied while I sorted out lead seals. Don't ask. One was teaching myself how to recite the alphabet backwards to the point I can now do it in less than 5 seconds. Don't ask. Another was memorising the script from Ghostbusters from memory, which may actually be a paradox in itself.
What about the Twinkie?
But before I'd even heard about this Fermi bloke, I'd often heard the question, if there's supposed to be intelligent life out there, then where are they? Which I've always thought of as a ridiculous question, as the answer is another question, where are we? This is the Hubble Deep Field Image, a picture taken by the Hubble Space Telescope that shows a densely populated area of space. It shows galaxies, white dwarfs, decaying supernovas and fledgling solar systems still being born. But as amazing as the image is, it's a little off when it comes to showing the actual scale. This point here and this one here could very well be 22 million light years apart, and as close to each other as they may seem, they could never be considered close neighbours. There's also this to be taken into consideration. This wasn't an image of some vast star field we can see with our naked eye on a clear night. This was a picture of an area within the Ursa Major constellation so small that from our point of view here on Earth, it was smaller than the head of a needle held at arm's length. So imagine this image multiplied by 17 quadrillion and you're getting close to how many other galaxies and solar systems, old and new, there are, and that's just the observable universe. There's more than likely 10 to the power of a Google squared other galaxies out there in all directions that we simply can't see because they're too far away. So with that in mind, how many other possible civilizations would you think are looking in our direction? If we flip that deep field image and imagine that someone else has taken this picture with their own telescope from the other side, how could they possibly pick us out from the millions of stars and galaxies that might be in the way? Plus, of course, if they did by chance happen to look directly at us with a telescope strong enough to actually see the surface of the planet, ignoring how fast we're hurtling through space, they wouldn't be looking at us as we are now. They'd be looking at the planet as it was however many light years ago. The further into space you look, the further back in time you're observing. That's just maths. One of the other constants of the universe is the speed of light.
As fast as it can go, at the speed of light, you know, 12 million miles a minute, and that's the fastest speed there is, so...
And to be able to make an object go faster than it really is a work of fiction. Even the light from the moon takes a second to get here, and if you look at the sun... Oh wait, don't look at the sun, that would be an incredibly stupid thing to do, and only morons would do it deliberately. What I mean is, when you glance at the sun, the light you're seeing is actually taking 8 minutes to get here. The only man-made thing that can go fast as light is radio waves. The human race first made a radio signal capable of reaching outer space in 1895, but as it was intended just to travel across the planet's surface to a receiver somewhere, it wasn't deliberately powerful. Some of it would have gone into space, but thanks to the ionosphere and signal degradation, it probably would have got as far as the moon before it broke down completely. In 1974, the Arecibo message was transmitted to globular star cluster Messier 3, the first such radio signal deliberately transmitted into space, aimed at a relatively close bunch of stars a mere 25,000 light years away. So even if it gets there and there's someone smart enough to respond, it'll be another 25,000 years before we get any kind of response, and it'll probably just be asked what the hell it meant. This is why, and stop me if I get too controversial, that it's more or less mathematically impossible for us to have been visited by beings or craft from another planet, no matter how convincing that bloke on TV seemed to be when he said he was probed that one time. Yes, there may be thousands of people who claim to have been abducted or seen UFOs or may actually be Dan Aykroyd, but when you look at the numbers, coupled with how technically advanced we aren't, on a galactic level anyway, the first thing an alien civilization would have to do before visiting us is to actually know that we're here. In the vastness of space, we are an infinitesimally small speck of dust on the lens of an interstellar telescope, and as for how far our earliest or strongest radio signals have reached, it amounts to a slightly larger speck. This really is as far as us shouting into space has got, about 200 light years. We are too small, too remote, and too quiet for anyone to know we're here, and the chances of anyone finding us by accident are so small they barely register, and guesswork doesn't work either. You take a chance on there being intelligent life here, and it's actually here, then that's 20 million years and a stupidly large amount of money wasted on a hunch. So let's get back to Avatar. When it came out in 2009, it was manufactured to be an epic billion-dollar movie. The plot is essentially Disney's Pocahontas wrapped up in giant blue smurfs and a moral message rammed down your throats, with the promise of several sequels to come. Personally, I enjoyed it, on a very basic level, despite all the creepy mocap suit romance and digital nipples. Originally I was going to make Independence Day the focus of this video, but aside from the improbability of the aliens finding us by chance, see above, there's not a lot of background lore to go on. The pre-marketing of Avatar brought a lot of extra gumph with it, and it was one of the first movies to proactively use various social media platforms to promote itself, as well as interactive trailer websites and its own wiki page, instead of just a standalone website created for the movie. In an effort to make the world of Pandora more believable, an overabundance of information was made available, including, but not limited to, where Pandora is, how far away it is, and how we got there. A lot of the numbers I'll be talking about can be found in Avatar, a confidential report on the biological and social history of Pandora by Maria Wilhelm and Dirk Matheson, a James Cameron approved look at the science of Pandora. Pandora, the Endor-like class M moon, is approximately 4.4 light years from Earth, so relatively close by galactic standards, and humans have been there since around the year 2134-ish. It's more than likely been based largely on Proxima Centauri, our closest star that has been determined to have planets orbiting it that most closely resemble Earth, and it's a very similar 4.2 light years away, so perchance they are cousins. The lore says that after scientists identified Pandora as possibly harbouring life, an unmanned research vessel was sent there, a la Mars Curiosity program, whereupon, as well as finding a lush jungle teeming with life, it also found the mythical unobtainium. No idea why they had to travel so far to find it. Delroy Lindo was making that stuff years ago.
The applications for this search.
What do you call this material?
Well, its real name has 37 syllables. I call it unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
But still, the unobtainium turns out to be a naturally occurring superconductive material, which can be used as a powerful energy source. It's a material used to power the ships seen at the start of the film, which by all accounts is capable of travelling at 70% of light speed, thanks to this new superfuel, and can get there in just 8 years. So far, so much science fiction and lazy math. But here's the big old stumbling block. Getting to Pandora might only take a few years with a tank full of sparkly stuff, but that first research vessel didn't have unobtainium to run on. Given that the movie is set only about 100 years and change in the future, that first rocket was probably based on technology we have here and now, not the planet-hopping behemoth seen in the film. That first craft would have had to have set off and travelled at regular, non-fictional speeds. The fastest thing we have in space right now is the Parker Solar Probe, which has been using the gravity of Venus to slingshot past the Sun at 330,000 miles an hour, which is still only 0.05% of the speed of light. That means that using current top-notch tech, the quickest a man-made craft using current and known fuel types will get there is roughly 6,300 years. But the amount of energy needed to make the trip would mean the propulsion system would have to be the largest ever created, and possibly the most expensive, to visit a planet that may end up to be completely useless. To us, I'm sure the indigenous people who live there think it's wonderful. And let's not ignore the law of technological advancement. We launch a craft today that we know will take 5,000 years to get anywhere. In 500 years, if we're still here, you crazy bastard, we managed to advance our technology to such a degree that we can launch another vastly superior craft that can get to the same destination in half the time, then the first craft would fade into obsolescence before it even got where it was going. Poor thing. So let's say the money is there, and the science is sound. It's a 12,600 year round trip, plus a few here and there for spinning around the sun for extra speed, as well as for course corrections. Plus it would have to reverse thrust for another year to slow down enough to make orbit. Then, like the Mars rover's 60-minute signal round trip, it's 4.4 years between communication bursts to find out if it's landed okay, if there isn't some vast magnetic field that means the craft is crippled from the word go, or if it hasn't been eaten. It would probably be another few years before it even deploys the equipment needed to find the unobtainium in the first place. Then once it's done, it somehow has to get that sample back to Earth in enough quantities that it can fuel another ship for a return trip. 2134 was a conservative estimate at best. It'd probably be the year 16,000 before any human actually sets foot on another planet. Just imagine if you went all the way there and only then found out you can actually breathe the air. Oh. So yeah, space is big, so says Douglas Adams, and calculably so, and in such large numbers that the vastness of it all is beyond the comprehension of most mere mortals, myself included. It would be nice to know for sure if they were not alone in this vast universe of apparent nothingness, but the sheer numbers alone tell us that the chances of us being able to communicate in real time with anyone that may be out there are roughly less than zero. Yeah, sorry about that.